Everything started looking normal on the surface, the way it always does before a couple begins to slide into territory they never expected to reach. Loren and Alexei had built their identities on being one of the franchise's most stable pairs, the couple viewers pointed to when the rest of the cast was spiraling. They had 3 children, a familiar routine, and a shared history that felt firmly lived in. But the last stretch of their story had been filled with friction that didn't come from a single explosive moment, but from a slow accumulation of pressures neither of them could ignore anymore. The disagreements over where they should raise their family, the way responsibilities shifted unevenly after each baby, and the strain of repeatedly adjusting to new expectations had left both of them showing cracks they tried to hide on camera. Their conversations about moving to Israel had started as a hypothetical dream, something Alexei held onto as a long-term possibility. But when the question became real, it hit a different nerve. Loren worried about safety and stability, about uprooting their children from a life they understood, and about losing the support system she relied on as a new mother multiple times over. Alexei, on the other hand, saw the move as a return to his roots and a chance to give his kids a cultural grounding he felt responsible for. What should have been a shared ambition split into a tug of war where neither felt fully heard. Their tones shifted, their patience shortened. Viewers noticed the small pauses in their conversations, the way jokes didn't land anymore, the way each of them seemed to brace before speaking. Layered over this was the stress that comes from being filmed while trying to live a real marriage. Loren had been open about her postpartum struggles, about how exhausting the constant swirl of obligations felt. Alexei tried to be supportive, but his own frustrations leaked through whenever the topic of balancing work, home life, and extended family involvement surfaced. These were not dramatic betrayals or secret revelations. They were slow, grinding frictions that wear a couple down over time. Motives became cloudy. Decisions felt heavier. Both of them believed they were doing what was best, yet both of them felt increasingly misunderstood. Even their warmest moments carried an undercurrent of strain. Small disagreements that once would have blown over became defining points in larger arguments. One of them would try to steer the conversation back toward compromise, but the tension lingered anyway, setting off a chain of new misunderstandings. The show caught glimpses of this shift. Loren feeling overwhelmed and unheard, Alexei feeling dismissed and pushed aside. Neither fully recognized how far the other had drifted until they were already deep in the conflict. The atmosphere in their home changed enough that family members began stepping in. Advice came from all sides, wanted or not, which only added to the tension. Outside opinions amplified old problems. The more people weighed in, the more each of them dug into their positions. Viewers saw it play out in the way Loren defended her concerns with sharper conviction, and in the way Alexei shifted from trying to negotiate to becoming more insistent on his long-term vision. Every conversation seemed to loop back to the same unresolved point. Were they building a future together, or were they growing in 2 different directions? That question hovered over them even when they tried to push forward. They still filmed scenes of daily life, still smiled for family outings, still tried to hold the image of a couple united. But each attempt to smooth things over only emphasized how far the situation had progressed. Their usual rhythm was off. Their decisions no longer felt aligned. And the moment that brought it all into focus wasn't a dramatic fight, but a quiet realization that neither of them could pretend the tension was temporary anymore. Everything shifted the day a new decision forced them to confront what had been growing under the surface, a choice that would affect not just where they lived, but how they functioned as a family. As soon as that question landed, both of them reacted in ways that made it clear the real conflict had only just begun, and the fallout would reach further than either of them expected. The first signs of the fallout appeared in family circles almost immediately. Relatives who had once stayed neutral suddenly found themselves choosing sides, whether openly or through the subtler shifts in tone and body language. Friends posted vague comments on social media, implying tension without naming names, while extended family quietly questioned decisions that were previously accepted without thought. How could a couple that seemed so grounded face this level of scrutiny? The camera captured Loren's frustration in small gestures, a tightening of her jaw, a pause before answering simple questions. while Alexei's responses carried an edge of defensiveness that hadn't been there before. Viewers could sense the widening gap in perception. What one saw as protection, the other interpreted as control. The public watching this unfold online wasn't passive either. Threads dissected every interaction, replayed past episodes for hints, and created their own narratives around loyalty, betrayal, and responsibility. The reaction wasn't just a ripple, it was a wave challenging every foundation they had built. Meanwhile, rumors and allegations began surfacing, tied to timelines that were already complicated. Certain key moments on camera, like unexpected trips and abrupt conversations, were revisited in detail by fans and analysts. Did Alexei conceal information about his personal relationships? Was there a misalignment between what he shared and what was happening behind closed doors? The evidence was messy but telling. Brief, tense phone calls, cryptic remarks in confessionals, and subtle omissions during family gatherings. Viewers began asking themselves the same questions that Loren must have faced internally. Was this a pattern of avoidance, or were circumstances simply misunderstood? Each new clip, each replayed interaction, raised tension and forced both the audience and the couple to weigh motive versus perception. Every answer seemed to create more questions, leaving both sides vulnerable and viewers glued to the screen. Then came the tipping point: Loren filing for divorce. It was not a sudden act of anger, but the culmination of a series of emotional peaks and quiet valleys, each one pushing her closer to a breaking point. Watching the filings unfold on camera revealed the strain of decisions made under pressure, choices that looked small at the time but carried massive consequences. Her decision wasn't just legal, it was emotional, signaling a shift in identity, autonomy, and future planning. Alexei's reaction, alternating between shock, defensiveness, and moments of quiet reflection, showed just how differently each processed the same events. Were there regrets, missteps, or moments that could have changed the trajectory? Every camera angle caught subtle tells: hesitation in speech, fleeting glances, pauses that spoke louder than words. The culmination of these moments didn't just end an era, it set the stage for a revelation that would leave both family and fans questioning everything they thought they knew about loyalty, timing, and the hidden layers of their relationship. As soon as news of Loren filing for divorce hit, social media erupted. Fans dissected every frame from the latest episodes, replaying moments where tension peaked but never fully broke. On Twitter, some praised Loren for taking a stand, calling her actions long overdue, and pointing to subtle signs from previous seasons as confirmation. Others questioned Alexei's intentions, sharing clips of his abrupt exits from family conversations or defensive body language during interviews. Reddit threads became mini courtrooms, with users acting as analysts of motive, timing, and behavior, connecting dots from public appearances, confessional remarks, and official filings. Some fans highlighted inconsistencies in recollections, while others noted the human tendency to filter conflict through stress, pointing out that perspective shapes perception. The online verdict wasn't unanimous, it was a mirror of the confusion and stakes inside their household. Official documents and aired footage, however, painted a more grounded picture. Court filings confirmed Loren initiated the divorce process, citing irreconcilable differences. On camera, both expressed a desire to handle matters respectfully, though emotion was unavoidable. Neither public statement suggested wrongdoing beyond the normal strains of family and personal decision-making. These facts contrasted sharply with the frenzy online, where speculation often outpaced evidence. Alexei's public posts were measured, highlighting commitment to his children and respect for Loren's choices, while Loren's statements emphasized clarity, boundary setting, and moving forward. The tension between public speculation and verified details created a striking paradox. Fans felt they understood every motive, yet official sources reminded everyone that only those living the reality could truly know the depth of these decisions. The collision of social media opinion and legal documentation left both characters navigating a complex perception landscape. Fans projected expectations, frustrations, and even solutions onto the couple, often interpreting gestures or remarks in ways neither intended. Meanwhile, the aired narrative showed nuance. moments of hesitation, private discussions, and visible attempts to reconcile differences before the filing. This contrast highlighted the challenge of living life under a lens where every decision becomes content and every emotional beat a debate. As viewers followed reactions, reposts, and comment threads, one question loomed large. How much of what the public thinks reflects reality? And how much is filtered through personal bias and incomplete information? By the time the divorce filing became official, the tension that had simmered for months reached a natural yet painful conclusion. Loren's decision wasn't just a legal step, it was a declaration of boundaries, a signal that repeated compromises had taken their toll, and a reflection of the emotional labor that had been largely unseen until this point. Alexei's reactions, measured yet visibly strained, revealed the complexity of processing loss while still maintaining parental duties. Viewers could see how months of small frictions, unresolved arguments, and public scrutiny finally converged into a moment that neither could ignore. Every previous scene, every withheld remark, and every silent pause came into focus as part of a larger narrative about choice, responsibility, and emotional honesty. The unfolding reality reminded audiences that relationships, even those captured on television, are shaped as much by what isn't said as by what is. The consequences extended beyond the marriage. Careers, personal reputations, and the public personas both Alexei and Loren had cultivated over years suddenly required recalibration. Friends, family, and fans adjusted expectations, sometimes offering support, sometimes amplifying criticism. The way the narrative played out in social media threads and fan forums showed how fragile perception can be and how quickly admiration can turn to judgment once stakes rise and private tensions become public. Both faced the challenge of maintaining dignity while managing the fallout, and the episodes captured the subtle navigation of these pressures in real time. For viewers, the lesson was clear. Emotional clarity and consistent communication matter more than performative gestures, especially when others are watching. Recognizing the difference between genuine action and performative behavior can save both personal energy and emotional investment. From a psychological perspective, the events underscored the importance of boundary setting, awareness of personal limits, and prioritizing mental health even amid external pressure. Lauren's choice to formalize her decision publicly wasn't about proving a point. It was about protecting her well-being and creating a path forward that honored her own needs while still preserving parental responsibilities. Alexei's navigation of the situation illustrated the difficulty of reconciling intention with perception and the reality that good intentions do not always prevent conflict or misalignment. These are lessons viewers can apply in their own lives, noticing when dialogue turns performative, taking time to understand underlying motives, and safeguarding personal boundaries before conflicts escalate. Ultimately, the emotional weight of this chapter lands not in judgment, but in understanding. Both parties are facing profound change, and the audience witnesses the raw complexity of love, disappointment, and resilience. The story leaves viewers with the sense that relationships are rarely linear, that intentions and perceptions can collide dramatically, and that stepping away from a dynamic that no longer serves personal or familial growth can be both painful and necessary. As the season closes this chapter, the final image lingers. A family still connected by children, yet each individual moving toward clarity, self-preservation, and a redefined sense of future possibilities. But just when you think the drama has reached its peak, another twist is already waiting behind the scenes. Rumors about hidden messages, unexpected confrontations, and new alliances are bubbling under the surface, and fans are already buzzing with speculation. Who will step up? Who will step back? And which secrets are still waiting to surface on camera? One glance at the next episode promises confrontations that could change everything, revealing choices that challenge loyalties and shift the balance of power in ways no one saw coming. You won't want to miss what happens next.